In this tutorial, we'll be constraining to a piece of photoscan geometry. This is to show what can be done when given any accurate model such as a simple hand-modeled set piece, photoscan, or a full-blown LiDAR scan. A LiDAR scan will give you the most accurate measurements by far out of the bunch. I made a tutorial on basic point constraints not long ago, so that would be great to check out on how constraining works. I'll be doing the constraint process a little fast in this video. This will basically be more of a demo. And if you want to follow along with the tutorial, there should be a link in the description with the footage and the mesh. So with that being said, let's jump into it. Okay, so to kick this off, let me quickly track my footage and I'll be with you in a second. So now that we've done our tracking, let's head over to Maya and take a look at the model first, before we load it into SynthEyes. So here we have the scan. I did this in Agisoft Metashape. I'm not the best at scanning, honestly, so there isn't too much crazy things going on here. What I did was in Maya, I positioned it where I wanted it in the world. I have leveled it out roughly to the steps, and I've scaled it roughly according to this guy. And he's kind of based on how tall I was to the how tall I was looking at some of these parts of the scan in person. So not the most accurate way to do it. If you wanted to do it more accurately, you could take whatever measurement tools that you have available to you. Like in Maya, we can go create, measure tools, distance, and now I can click in a couple of locators here. So I'm going to select these and scale them up so we can see them. Also, let's put them on a display layer. They're really hard to see. Let's go yellow, sure. Okay, so we have these 2 points. I can hold V, snap to whatever locator I want. Let's say we measured a point from one brick or one piece of rock, brick, whatever you want to call it. Well, let's say we measured from one point to the other. In the middle, it's kind of hard to see, but there is a faint value there, an actual measurement. I can't remember what my units are set to. I think I'm in centimeters. But yeah, so you can take the 2 points that you measured, put this distance tool in here, and if you take your 2 locators and your mesh and group them, now when you scale your group, you could see the scale unit, the scale value adjusting live, so you can get something more accurate according to whatever it is that you want, unlike what I did where I just eyeballed it. So I'm going to undo all that, and that being said, we can now take this over to SynthEyes. Just select your mesh and, you know, file, export selection, OBJ. Simple enough. You can plug in your texture too. Like I so happen to have a texture with this model. I might load it in. We'll see. I'm not too sure yet. Also, something you want to make sure that you do is once you've oriented your scan exactly how you want it, make sure that you freeze your transforms. So I'm going to hit spacebar, modify, freeze transforms. Of course, I've already done it. Everything is zeroed out. My scale is set to 1. So this is pretty clean. And if you have history, just delete it. Shift-Alt-D. So you clean everything up here. Okay, so now we're back in SynthEyes. We might find that I might have to track a few more points depending on how easily I can find these details on the mesh, but we'll come to that if we have to. So let's go ahead and load in our model. I'm going to come over to 3D, which I actually am already here, and come to Import right there, Magic Wand. Now we can load in a mesh. I happen to be in the correct location, thankfully, so I'm going to click my mesh here, open, and yes, it's going to ask me if I want to strip the normals from this object to reduce the number of generated vertices from da-da-da to ba-da. I do this sometimes, but for some reason I've noticed, and I've tested this a number of times, if I have really dense meshes and I strip the normals, it makes it slower. I don't know why, but it depends. If there's kind of a medium-sized mesh and I strip the normals, it goes faster. I don't know what's up with that, but just to be safe, I'm going to hit no, just for my own sanity. So now we have the scan. If I hit F4, we have the model here, oriented in the scene. It's a little bit dense, so it's kind of hard to see what's going on. Okay, I do have a texture to go along with this model, so I'm going to load that in so it'll help us view it a little better. If you don't have a texture for your model, do not worry about it, because you don't need a texture. In fact, all LiDAR scans, pretty much all LiDAR scans, will not come with a texture of any sort for you. Some do, but not a lot. It doesn't happen very often in the industry, unfortunately. So I'm gonna hit F3 and let's go into orbit, and I can hit Control F so I can frame the object, but everything kind of went away. That's because the world size is a bit small compared to my object. I'm gonna come to solver. Let's go to world size. I'm gonna tack in a 0, and you know what? I might even change the 1 to something like a 5. Okay, so now I'm gonna hit Control 5 again, or sorry, Control F again, and here we have our scan. The camera's a little bit massive. That's because, again, I dragged up the world size. I could probably shrink this down a bit, actually. Let's shrink it down. Sure, 600, why not? Okay, so, like I said, you don't need a texture. You can kind of see what's going on here. You can find recognizable corners like the steps. Maybe you might be able to see some bricks if we go into solid shade mode. Solid shade mode is a little bit messy right now, so if I click off, it's still a little bit messy. If you want to have your selection on your mesh without the wireframe, hit Shift Pipe key. And now we can see a little bit better what's going on. You could see some of the detail in a brick here. So yeah, you can track some of these details in your shot and find them and manually place your points. But it's a little annoying. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the texture that I have for my mesh, or we're gonna apply the texture. Man, I wish I worded that better. Oh well. So to do this, what you're gonna do is under your 3D tab, you see that you have texture panel right here, or you can hit T on your keyboard, and you will be greeted with this window. So generally with this window, I actually don't use it too often. You can bake textures, and you can actually bake textures onto your geometry with SynthEyes. It's pretty cool. See, create texture, and it has all these options. We're just gonna load in a texture. So we're just gonna go set. And it looks like I am already loaded into where my texture was actually loaded. It's in a separate location because reasons. Oh wait, is that the same location? I don't know, whatever. Okay, so anyway, the texture's here. I'm gonna click this, open. Now that we've opened it, you could see that our color of our model has changed a little bit. It looks a little funny. You can come over and use hide mesh selection right here. So now when your mesh is selected, it's not gonna highlight red. So now I can orbit around it, everything's fine. Something I want to check, if I close this. Okay, yeah, so I don't know if this is fixed in new versions of SynthEyes. I'm kind of running some older versions here, but I have to keep the texture panel window open with hide mesh on. So I'm going to drag this off into my other monitor and just leave it there forever. So now that we have the model here, let's go ahead and start looking for some features that we can drop our trackers onto. So I'm going to hit F2. And we don't need to see the mesh in this view. It's not helping us. I'm going to hit my hotkey, or, well, I'm not going to hit my hotkey to hide mesh. Most people probably don't have the hotkey. Right click, come to view, and show meshes off. Okay, so let's see. What's the first lucky detail? I might be looking for a second, so if I have to speed up this portion of the video, then so be it. Actually, something I want to point out that makes it a little bit easier to navigate in SynthEyes, since you're working in 3D. I say this in my tutorials, but if you're a Maya user, go up to Edit, Edit Preferences, come to Perspective here, and enable Maya Style. Just to save you some stress. I'm not super into SynthEyes' default navigation. Apparently, it's good for SynthEyes, according to the manual with Russ, but I don't know. I don't like it. So here's my way to navigate. I find this point, then I hit F3. Now we're here, so we can go orbit. Now we're orbiting like in Maya, so you can right click and middle mouse pan and stuff while holding Alt. But it's a little bit annoying to move around, so I'm gonna hit place. So that tracker I selected right here, I can click it onto the mesh, and now SynthEyes will lock onto it, and you can zoom in on that point. So I like to click my points here and then rotate them like that. Okay, so what do we got here? So we're gonna look for this thing. Looks like a shoe, I guess. I think. What was I looking at? Oh, I see it. Right here. Here's that shape right there. Now what am I actually looking at? Little white stain, little dark splotchy thing on a white stain. Whoa, did I just click onto it? Oh, I kind of did. It's right there. I got lucky. So we've clicked and placed our point onto our first feature. Let's look for some more. This little chip here looks like it might be easy to find. So click somewhere in that area. There's a dark stain right there. Here's the angle, dark stain. Actually, we should have did that one. That one's easy. Anyway, our point's right here. Right there, I think. Right at the tip of this. I don't trust that one too much, actually. Oh well. Take that point, and we'll click it right there. By the way, if you don't want to swap between F2 and F3, like I'm doing to get from camera to perspective, you could come to your layout, camera perspective, and now we permanently have both views, which I probably should have did to start, honestly. So, what's something closer up? Let's try to get this right here. When you're trying to place some points onto your... Oh, I did place that point. Be careful you don't have your old tracker selected and accidentally replace its point. You're gonna have a bad time. So with this selected, let's take a little look-see down here. I'm gonna click place it here so I can zoom in. It's under the mesh, but you could see it is there. Okay, so tip of the white portion, looking like it's this, I guess. I don't like the angle of that. I might get rid of that one later. There's a dark point right there. Might be easy to find. I might have just found it without even have to place, so pretty sure this is it right here. Okay, so let me hit F2. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. If you were to solve in automatic, SynthEyes will require you to have a minimum of 4 constrained points, I believe, and use constrain. Sometimes I've seen it not, actually. I don't do that too often, but usually I try to start out with multiple constrained points. So I'm going to turn constrain on, and let's hit go. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show mesh as well. And yes, I hit my hotkey, but remember, you know where it is. View, show mesh. Okay, so let's actually make this a less obnoxious color. Let's go kind of a, I don't know, blue, I guess. Okay, let's do this. Immediately, it's going to turn out bad if I don't turn on calc distortion, so distortion on. And let's hit go. Wow, look at that. So when I hit play, the mesh is a little bit dense. It's a little hard to see. But, you know, it looks pretty cool. You could see it's doing its job. Something that I want to do immediately is just for visibility sake, I'm going to go into Blender real quick and decimate this mesh. So I'll see you there in one moment. Okay, so I brought my scan into Blender. Usually I decimate my meshes, specifically dense lidars, in ZBrush, because ZBrush is much more powerful in that sense. Blender is not super good with very high poly meshes, unless they've corrected it and I don't know, but I usually get a lot of crashes here. Now that I've loaded it here, this is a pretty low mesh, so it should be fine. Let's go over to material, and I'm going to delete this default use background thing, or whatever, no, use background, never mind, whatever material was on there. Now we could see it a whole lot better. So immediately, I'm going to go into wireframe because I want to, you know, see the wireframe as we reduce it. So I'm going to come over to modifiers. We're going to look for decimate. And here I'm going to change this ratio down to, I don't know, let's try 0.2. Let's see what that does. It's going to take a second. Alright, so the nice thing about decimating is that it does a pretty good job at not harming some of the more prominent details in your objects. So it's not going to erode a surface away too dramatically in the sense where it's unusable for your track, because the point of your LiDAR scan is that it's, it's as perfect as can be to the real environment. And you don't want any kind of smooth or something that erodes your mesh away. Do not use any kind of voxel remesher. Just decimate. No voxel remeshing. So we could pretend this was enough. I might push it a little bit more. Let's try, I don't know. Whoop, I hit enter. Oh, come on. Now I gotta wait for it. Oh, no, I don't. Never mind. 0.15? I don't know. Alright, what's this gonna do? I probably should have just went 0.1. Yeah, let's go 0.1 and leave it. Okay, so I'm just gonna actually hit Control A. Nope, I'm not. I'm gonna come over here and hit apply. Wait, I did hit Control A. What's the big deal? I'm hitting Control A and it doesn't apply. Oh, it's applying now. Guess I have to have that selected. I'm not amazing at Blender. Alright, so with this low res mesh finished, I'm gonna export and import this into SynthEyes, and this is just for visibility. Alright, so back in the SynthEyes, let's just launch our hierarchy view window, SynthEyes' outliner. I'm gonna collapse trackers. So I'm gonna take this scan mesh and I'm gonna hide it. And now we're gonna go 3D, import, and here I have my decimate mesh. Open. Unrecommended. Get out of here. Nah, I'm okay. Alright, so now we have this much more visually appealing mesh. To make it even better, let's pick a color like I did last time. I like that blue, so it's nice to see here. But there's still a problem. We're still seeing wireframe through other surfaces that we don't want to see it through. We want to occlude that. To do that, you can't do it within SynthEyes' camera view. You have to go into the perspective view. So hit F3 and L, lock to camera. So this might look a little bit gross, I know. But hit the pipe key to go wireframe, and two things I'm going to do. I'm going to go view, lit meshes, or lit wireframes off. I don't like that personally. And also right click, go back to view, and occluded wireframes. And hey, look at how much better that is to look at now. So that is really the basics of, that's all really the basics of this workflow now. But, let's just take another quick look at it here. So now that I have this low poly mesh that we can look at, I could see some problems here. This isn't fitting the best. Let's see what else. Whoop, okay. This here could be a little bit better probably. Let's see if we can do some minor adjustments or find a couple extra points. So I'm going to hide our low poly mesh and show our high poly again, and just take a better look at it as well. You can see the issues here. So if I go and let's see, let's go into mesh. So what I'm doing right now is I open up the mesh tab and I'm turning solid mesh on and off just so I can compare. So here we are looking at the mesh. You can see this weird pixeliness. If I go solid mesh off, we're looking at a wireframe, and now we're looking at the actual geometry. So you can see this point here should be lining up at that little dot right there. So what I'm going to do now is select that point where you can click on these triangles, and on the mesh I'm going to place it right on that dot. So place is on, and I can hit click, and careful not to, oh, never mind. I thought if you click on that triangle it's going to snap to the bottom. I guess not. So let's bring it right over here to that white dot. And now let's go F2, no, let's go F3. Let's show our low res wireframe, and let's just see if this snaps over a little bit. So I'm going to hit Shift G. It did. It didn't snap over a whole lot. I do gotta say, I probably won't get this 100% accurate because this is a photo scan off of a fisheye lens. It's a very, very messy scan, and this was actually very low light. This was close to sunset. It's just I had to brighten up the photos and their shadows quite a bit for the software to see anything. So that was a little bit of Lightroom work to do this. But yeah, you can look around your shot, look for any issues like, oh wow, let's show that high res again. Look for any issues like this. That bar is very bad. Don't worry about the bar because that's a very thin detail that I'm actually really surprised the scan pulled off. Yeah, take a little tour around your shot. Let's see, is there anything over here? Because this mesh was pretty bad. Is there anything that we can adjust here? Yes, this point here, can I click it through the mesh? Nope. Let's go F2, select this. So if I turn this on and off, there, I want it to be right there. So place is on, and I'll click there. Okay, now hopefully this tracker will pull this together and this mesh will slide over. There we go. That looks a lot better right there. Of course, you want to watch it a little bit more, not just on one frame. You could see a little bit of this here, but that's such a tiny angle that I actually didn't scan very well when I was shooting this. Again, this was a very fast, crude scan. But that is basically it, honestly. That's kind of all there is. So, you know, we have our model. I can come over summary, lens workflow, redistorted, apply this, go back to F3. My shot's kind of done. Yes, so that's kind of it. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you in another video. Later.